Okay. Hey, welcome to this first hybrid event of ISAC and the Netherlands. Welcome and great to see you after 2 years of the Corona period. This will be a series of several hybrid events that we'll be organizing. We will organize them to several different topics here in the Netherlands. Our members are scattered out throughout the Netherlands, so we try to reach out to as much members as possible. We're here currently at the Dam in Amsterdam. We're at I have to quick look at the Koninklijke Industriële Grote Club. And we just had a nice dinner. And after this event, we also have a few drinks. As you've noticed, we're not using Teams. We're using a different tool called Webinar Geek. Unfortunately, you're not able to ask questions directly to the speaker. However, there is a possibility to ask your questions via the chat. And one of the committee members, Ramsey, will read your questions to our speaker. And that's how I'd like to introduce Irfan. Irfan, thank you that you're willing to speak regarding here on DevOps. And great to have you here on the first hybrid webinar of ISAC and Nirvana. Thank you.
We already did all the announcements you wanted to do?
Not sure. Oh, yeah, they're slightly different, so... Oh, yeah, important point. Don't forget to write down your first name and last name. Just like the normal events that we have, in order to know when did you dialed in, and then we know who we can assign CP points to. Thanks.
So let me know when we can go, guys. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you so much. I came prepared, of course, for the presentation, but I didn't know the location would be this beautiful. And I know that everybody applaud for me, but I want you guys to please do an applause for the organization, because it's really a beautiful location we are at. So I'm really thankful that I am able to speak over here and share my knowledge and my insights. I'm just gonna move to the next slides because then I can pick it up from there. I just want to get a little bit of sense of feeling who the audience is. So if you are, and for the people online it will be difficult, but just here hybrid as well. So let me just pause it. Who's working within the information security field as an information security manager or specialist? So we have a lot. Is there somebody working in IT itself? So not information security, but IT? Okay, and so actually, no, we don't have DevOps engineers over here, right? So the talk will be really tailored towards you as an audience security specialist, and I guess my assumption is that it's a representation of who we have online. Okay, I want to start my presentation, guys, with giving you the key takeaway. And the key takeaway is not a message, it's really a feeling that I want you to take away. And I'll explain to you why I want you to take away. But please, throughout the whole presentation, this is the feeling you need to keep for yourself. And that's portrayed in this picture over here. So what do we see? We see a man who's harvesting a green, watery-looking coconut, but in a very disturbing way, right? I mean, he could have been sitting on the ground or standing on the ground and just picked up that coconut. But he's overdoing it. And I'm pretty sure you guys think that that's me, but it's not me. It looks like me, but it's not. When I have my hair, I do look like him, but it's not me, I can assure you that. But there has been many times in an organization that I worked with, which I felt like this, right? I had to do a process, whether it's an IT process, an HR process, or even a compliance process. And it didn't make sense to me. I had to do it, but it didn't make sense. And I want you to keep this feeling. I'm pretty sure that you all have your own examples that you can give to us of a process that you had to do where you felt like this. And I want you to keep this feeling with you, because this is exactly what we don't want to do to our DevOps engineers. We don't want to institutionalize security and security processes where we want them to feel like this, that they are doing security and it's not making sense to them. So please keep this feeling. That's where the talk is about. My name, Irfan Santu. A little bit about myself. I'm currently working at Wolters Kluwer as a global security director. I'm responsible for overseeing the security in Europe. But I've not been working that long for Wolters Kluwer. Before that, I worked for the ABN AMRO Bank and had several positions over the leadership positions in security. And the reason one that I had was the head of what we call security engineering. It was a department around 35 to 45 security engineers that would help the different DevOps teams within the bank, whether they're developing applications or whether they're developing infrastructure to include security in whatever they're developing. And I'm not sure whether you know, but ABN AMRO is moving towards the cloud. It's a massive transformation. They're moving a lot of their workloads to the cloud, but also they're moving towards DevOps, from a dev way of working to DevOps way of working. And I had the privilege to lead that integration of security within those transformations. Also within, of course, Wolters Kluwer, we are moving towards the cloud, and I think almost everybody is moving to the cloud. So there's nothing new to that, but maybe not every organization is working DevOps yet. So hopefully I can bring something to you guys if you have the inspiration and your organizations have the inspiration to work towards DevOps. I do have a technical background. I did computer science. I'm a master in programming, so I do understand the developers world quite well as well. That's why I can relate as security a little bit better with them, I feel. And from a personal side, I'm fascinated about the inner sciences of yoga and meditation. And just to keep you guys a little bit energized today, we're going to do an exercise on that as well to make some parallels with DevOps as well. All right? Are we ready for it? Right. So we'll start with, and this is always the case when I talk about security in DevOps. I feel compelled to explain what that is, because everybody I speak to, doesn't matter which organization, they have a different view of what DevOps is. So I'm really compelled to stand still in what DevOps is. And if we want to look at what DevOps is, we need to look at how the world looked before DevOps. So before DevOps, we had dev people and ops people. Change and run. So what does a developer want? Developer wants to bring change as soon as possible to production. They want to get feedback so they can improve their functionality of the application. So they want speed and they want change. What does our ops people want? They want to make sure that whatever goes to production, that it is stable, that the customers can rely on that application. So we can feel that they want stability, but the developers, they want change, they want speed. And some way, somehow, we feel that brings some tension with it. It's like they're working against each other, not with each other. So if you take the analogy of driving a car, our developers will be the gas pedal, they want to go fast. We'll have our ops people, they want stability, they will be our brake. So what happens if you press on the brake and the gas pedal at the same time? Your car will make a screenshot, right? So this is what's happening with the model before DevOps. They were mostly working with each other, but also not always working with each other. So there is where we introduce the concept of DevOps. And even in this picture, we have not even included security, right? So we just discussed the dev engineers and the ops engineer, not even security. So conceptually, if you take the analogy of driving a car, think about security might be even the handbrake, right? So what happens when your gas pedal, your brake, and your handbrake doesn't work? Critical functionality of driving a car do not work in the right order. I don't think you'll probably be safe, let alone be able to drive from A to B, right? So it's damn important that if you want security to work and DevOps to work, these critical functions need to work together. And that's where the talk is about today. So how to go about it? It's actually quite simple, conceptually. You need to make sure that the security processes integrate well and move at the same speed as the DevOps processes. That's the secret sauce, that's the mantra. But very hard to implement. And we're going to touch upon the way to do it. So in the talk, I'll address all the security activities that you can organize, the security programs that you need to organize in 3 pillars, 3 dimensions. It will be around automation, how automation can help you to organize security better in DevOps. It will be around what I call MITology, methodology and technology. That means whatever the organization is introducing as new technologies and methodologies, how can you embrace that and do security better? And the last one is being more inclusive. That means there is a gap between developers, DevOps engineers, and the security departments, the security people. And inclusiveness is about closing that gap. Okay, so today's agenda will be about that. So the 3 pillars, we'll be discussing that. And before that, I'll stand still a little bit longer, more elaborated on what DevOps is and how that compares to DevSecOps. How many of you have heard the term DevSecOps, by the way? Yeah, okay, that's good. So good to have that conversation. I think the presentation will be around 45 minutes. I've been busy now, like 9 minutes, 10 minutes, so we have 35 minutes more to go. It will end around 7, 8, I think, right? Yes. So if you do have questions, please, there's a microphone where you can go to and ask the question, and if you're online, then you can, again, post your questions in the chat, and then the moderator will vocal it to us, and then we'll address it. All right, guys, I think we can go to the first agenda point. How does DevOps compare to DevSecOps? Again, developers, they want to have change. We have the ops people or run people, they want to have stability. There's a wall of confusion within them. So this is not efficient, and the IT world has recognized that this is not efficient. So what did the IT world introduce? They introduced something called DevOps. And the idea of DevOps is that you bring these 2 different teams together as one team. So you'll still have the same discipline there, but you'll have one team that is responsible end-to-end for the life cycle of that application, right? And this is a very famous DevOps life cycle. To be honest, I don't know who created this, who came with this, but I'm seeing this everywhere. So you'll have different phases of where an application is being planned, it's being designed, it's being coded, ultimately deployed and run or monitored. And there is no beginning, there is no end. It can start anywhere. The idea is that it's a continuous cycle. But the biggest change over here is that when the team is designing the application or changing a functionality of the application, then they have both disciplines looking at it. They have the developers, but also the people that understand how to run the infrastructure or run the application, looking at whatever change is being proposed. That means there is a faster feedback of what will work and what will not work. Instead of the developers doing all the work and then pushing it to production and then getting the feedback, this is not going to work, it's going to break, they already get the feedback at the early stage. And I think that's the most added value, the big power of working in a DevOps way, beside the fact that there's a philosophy of automating a lot. But bringing these 2 disciplines together, there is where you save a lot of inefficiencies. You eliminate a lot of inefficiencies. So if you look at this picture, there is no clear mentioning of security over here. It's not. So where is the security department in this picture? Good. Very good. So you're ahead of my talk. That's great. So, but why should it be outside of the inside of the life cycle? I think we need to stand still at the fundament why that's the case, right? So let's assume we have the security department added outside of that life cycle. So what do security people want? They want to make sure that code is being developed, is pushed to production in a secure manner. That's what they stand for. They'll come with their own processes. I'm looking at you guys, right? They'll come with their own process. You need to pen test. You need to fill in this questionnaire and whatnot. How do we know that those processes, if they're outside of the DevOps lifecycle, have the same speed at which DevOps engineers are moving with writing the code and pushing it to production? We don't know. So by introducing the security department outside of that DevOps lifecycle, you introduce another wall of confusion. And then you're pushing DevOps back to the world of Dev and Ops. And that's exactly what we didn't want, right? That's why we did this change. So we don't want to solve it this way. What is the solution? Well, the solution is we add security people. That's a theoretical solution, by the way. We add security people into the life cycle. So we said we have added the Dev capability discipline. We have added the Ops capability discipline into the same team. And for each phase in the life cycle, they look at it. Now we can add a security person there as well. And every time they plan something, they're going to design the functionality, they're going to code it, they're going to test it. Somebody can give them feedback from a security perspective. But this is a theoretical model. The problem with this model is that if you look at the ratio of developers versus op people versus security people, in most organizations it will be 100 developers versus 10 ops people versus 1 security person. You guys work in security, you know how scarce it is to find security people. So this model is not going to fly. It's a theoretical model. It's not scalable at all. So this is not the good solution. The right solution is we give the developers, the DevOps engineers, we give them a security badge, and we make them responsible for security. They have built it, they run it, and they secure it. Right? Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of exercise now. It's time for mindfulness. And what I will do, people that are online, just follow my voice and maybe just look at me for now. All of you are sitting. I want you to sit relaxed. Don't sit like it's a very strict thing. Just sit very relaxed over here. And don't close your eyes yet. Please let it be let my voice guide you. It's a mindful exercise. And the reason why I'm doing this exercise, just to energize you a little bit, but also to make some parallels with the importance of organizing security in DevOps in the right way. So it is very relevant for our talk today. So I want you to put your arms up front of you like this, with your palms facing upwards to the ceiling, okay? And when I say turn, then you turn your arms, palm facing downwards. Just as simple as that. It's not a complex turn, just like this, exactly, right, the right way. Now I want you to put your arms, let it rest on your thighs like this, okay? So I'm gonna sit over here, maybe that's better for me as well. Like this, perfect. Now when I say turn, you turn it like this. When I say turn again, palm facing upwards, you turn it like that. As simple as that's. If you're able to do that, you're able to do yoga, so that's great. So what I want you to do now is close your eyes and let my voice guide you. Please, all of you, close your eyes. And keep watching your breath. How are you breathing? Watch that. Turn your arms, palms facing downward while you're breathing, very slowly. Breathe, watch your breathing. Turn your arms, palms facing downward, upward. Keep breathing. Watch your breath. Turn it again. Very slowly, watch it. Turn it again. Watch your breathing. All right. Very slowly open your eyes. Okay. Can any of you tell me the difference in your breathing when your palms are facing upward versus palms facing downward? Any of you that paid attention? None of you? Oh my God.
When my palms was upward, I was able to breathe till my ear, and when it was downward, I was able to breathe till my chest.
Okay. Okay. Any other experiences? So Abhishek said that he saw the breathing was different when the palms are facing outward. It came from a different spot. Anyone else? Okay. And did you see a difference between your palms facing downward and upward when you were breathing? Oh, paying attention on the breath. Okay. So I want you to do this exercise back home. Just pay a little bit more attention. But you will clearly see, if you pay attention, when your palms are facing upward, the breathing is easier than when your palms are facing downward. It's not that you're not able to breathe, but when the palms are facing upward, it's like, whoa, I'm breathing. And when the palms are facing downward, it's a little bit more locked. That's what you will see. And the point that I'm trying to make over here is for something as fundamental as breathing, even a subtle posture like the palms are facing upward, downward, it's having an impact on our breathing pattern. And again, maybe you have not experienced it, but if you're going to do it at home, I'm pretty sure you're going to see the difference. And this is exactly what's happening with security within DevOps, right? We have different security processes, activities, whatnot. If you're going to put a security process in a DevOps process at a wrong place, you're going to make the DevOps life cycle more difficult. The whole objective of DevOps, you're probably even going to break it. So the parallel that I'm trying to make is make sure that we fully understand if we put a security requirement up front, we want to put a security process in place, have a good understanding how that's going to impact the DevOps process. And my insights that I want to share today with you will be around that. Where to put the security and where not to put it, so you prevent breaking DevOps. So as I said, organizing the security can be seen as doing it on 3 pillars. One is automation, right? So automation is all about doing security in such a way that there is no to minimal human interaction needed to make security happen. And I really believe that automation is the only way to do security at scale, right? Think about doing security for 10 teams. Maybe you're able to do it as a security professionals, giving that advice. But what if you have 50 teams? Are you able to do security with the same quality on the same timelines for 50 teams? What if you have 100 teams? ABN AMRO has 500 plus teams, right? You really need to think about how do you do security at scale. So automation is the only way to do it. But it's not the only thing you need to do to be able to get security done in DevOps. The second pillar is what I call MITology, methodologies and technology. So methodologies would be agile way of working. It would be something like microservices is a way of thinking of doing your technology and your IT. And technology itself would be, for example, quantum computing, AI, cloud. Those are really technology improvements that are happening to your organization. How can you use those changes to do security better? Have we thought about it? Yes, it comes to you, you think about it, it will bring security risk with it, it's fine. But how can you use that actually to do security better? And thirdly is inclusiveness, again. It's about the passion and the mindset of the organization towards doing DevOps and IT. And more importantly, it's really about bringing these two worlds together. The DevOps world with the security world together, become more inclusive. So what can we do on that pillar as well that will help you to do security better in DevOps and reach Nirvana? We'll start with automation. So based on my experience, what I've done, of course, we can say, dear DevOps engineer, you're responsible for security. Here you go for a security badge, and then we're done. But it's not going to work like that, right? Because giving somebody responsibility doesn't mean that they will be able to do it. So I strongly believe that as security departments, as security enablers, we need to enable them as much as possible to be able to do security. And my experience, not only with ABN AMRO, but other companies that I've worked with and seen, there are a few capabilities that you can actually automate, right? And these are all capabilities that you can automate. I don't have all the time to go through all of them, but I'll touch upon a few of them and explain how that automation happens. So we're going to start with threat modeling. Any of you? Yeah?
A bit of online questions.
Yes.
Are coming in, and maybe I want to read a couple of them. So someone was asking, like, is security always placed between release and deploy phase? That was in your Infinity DevOps thing. Another thing that I see being called out is like a developer having security function could cause conflict in segregation of duties. I think this needs it. This is part of it.
Okay.
What you're going to say, but
yeah.
I wanted to mention it. And there was a question about like feasibility of manual checks versus automation of controls. I think this is what you're talking about, but I just wanted to,
so
get it interactive.
What we will do, thank you so much for that. So we'll address these questions somewhere at the end. If you do have questions, please do ask it, but these questions we'll address, then we'll see whether we have addressed it during the talk or not. So threat modeling, how many of you know what threat modeling is? Okay, so that's good. So I'm not going to elaborate too much on it, right? It's a very systematic way of looking at your application architecture, your application data flow, and thinking about, who are the bad actors, and how would they get into your application? How would they compromise your data? Think about abuse cases of your application data flow. But based on the abuse cases, also think about what would be good security measures you want to implement to prevent that from happening. And within ABN AMRO, this is what we did automate, right? We had to do it ultimately for a lot of teams. We started with 10, 15, and then 60, and then we already know if we're going to do this manually, do these exercises with the DevOps teams, it's not going to work. We need to do it differently. So we automated it. We made sure that they got the right trainings, and there's a tool available for them where they could architect their application, and based on that architecture, they would get feedback, hey, you have to consider these security threats that might happen because you have architected front end, back end. You need to probably encrypt your connection between the front end and back end as well. So that would be a security threat response that they would have to implement. Yeah. That's okay. We will just have a little bit of lag. Yeah. So based on the security threat response, the DevOps teams could generate security user stories on their backlog as they're designing the application to say, okay, I need to implement this sort of security feature to make sure I have a secure enough release. So threat modeling is something that we automated and can be automated. I'll touch upon security assurance. That's an interesting one as well. So security assurance for me has what we call dust testing, right? So dynamic security testing. But it's broader than that for me, right? So just think about most of the critical applications within your organizations, they will be pen tested, right? Maybe once a year, once in 2 years or something like that. And our pen testers, they are very expensive people. But they do test some of the basic things, right? Think about me, Irfan, having access to an application. But can I access the data of Federico, if Federico has an account there as well? If I change my username and user ID in there, can I access it? So it's a simple test. You can do it, and you'll see, hey, I'm not able to see Federico's data. But is that not a test we can also automate? Can we not also create a unit test and call it a security unit test? Put it basically in whatever we're doing during the deployment and get it tested. Right? Every time the application changes, that's a test you can already run. So think about those things. We are doing those pen testing. What part of the pen test execution that we have done that we can include as use cases for the DevOps teams to get automated? Right? And then every time you deploy again to production, that test is automated, it's been done for you. Yes, please.
There's no
Yeah.
I'll start over with my question. Give me also some time to think about how to formulate my question.
Yeah, sure.
I see all kinds of elements that you face with developing this security thing, but I do not see, for example, something like the guideline from the European Central Bank or the Dutch National Bank or whatever, which contains lots of security elements that you could use upfront and automate it. Is there a reason for that?
So the question, if I understand your question correctly, you're asking why there is not a mapping or the guidance that whatever regulator is giving mapped towards basically this capability model. That's what you're saying.
We compliant with that anyway, so why not include it right away at the first?
Yes. So that's a very good question, and I really like this one. I really like this one because I see, and this is my philosophy, by the way. I don't believe compliance comes first. I believe security comes first, and compliance should be the result out of it. Yes, you are spot on because most of the cases you have to demonstrate that you are in control. That's something that we have to do, but I like to work the other way around. I really like to make sure that we are secure first, and that as part of being secure, compliance comes out of it. Now, how do you show that? I know this is a struggle currently within the DevOps way of working. There are not, actually, I don't know any good company, besides maybe Google and Amazon and these sort of high-tech companies, that are able to execute DevOps and ensure security and get compliance out of there as well, and able to show it very efficiently. I do have some ideas how to do it, but currently what I do see is these regulations you're talking about, these frameworks that exist over there, there is not a good link between the DevOps way of working and them. I think they need to be updated. But it will happen. As DevOps will be more adopted, it will happen. But the people that are able to advise, how do you go from automation, how do you go from the processes that you've organized to make security happen in DevOps towards showing compliance in an efficient way, I think it's good business. Yeah. I know there are companies that are struggling with this, big companies. So I cannot name them, but I know they're struggling with it. So it's something to be considered. But it's happening more and more. And I do believe that sooner or later, somebody will find out how to do it. And then the mapping is there towards NIST or ISO or whatever controls. It's fine. It's fine. Hope that answered your question. Maybe not fully, but at least, yeah, thank you. We already touched upon security assurance. I'm not going to go further because looking at the time, I'm just going to continue. But if you do have questions on what these capabilities stand for, please reach out to me after the presentation. One thing that I do want to spend time on is for every capability that's listed over here, there is a pattern. There is a pattern which what you need to organize, because if you don't address that pattern, you'll have a challenge, a problem. And that pattern I want to call the heart of automation, because anything that you will automate for DevOps, you will see that this is a challenge. And what is that? So I want you to quickly look at this picture and just absorb what it's saying. Right? So this picture is basically, and I'm pretty sure if you go back to your life, right? Think about anything that you have done in your life. There must be moments, if you go back, you will think, okay, if only I had the right knowledge, the right skills, the right experience, I would have not failed. I would have done a much better job. I would be extremely successful. So this is really about making sure when you do something, you have the right experience, knowledge, and skills to do it. And this applies for our DevOps engineer, right? We have given them the badge. We have made them responsible for security, but they are not security people. And 99% of them do not have the ambition to become a security expert, right? So you need to make sure that as part of your automation, and we're going to go to the next slide, you close the gap of knowledge and skills that there is with them. So think about SAS testing. I'm not sure whether these things say something to you, but threat modeling, SAS testing, pen testing, if these are the things you expect the DevOps teams to pick up, make sure you train them properly as part of your automation, right? So it's not that you say, here is a tool and go and use it. You need to set up a program around it. You need to build a capability, not implement a technology, build a capability around it. Write clear instructions, how to use the output that's coming from that tool. Is that tool generating output that's too much tailored towards security language? Do our developers understand? Our DevOps engineers, do they understand what you're writing, what your tool is creating as output? So make sure you close that gap of knowledge and skills by setting up the right knowledge and skilling programs for the DevOps engineer from a security perspective as well. And I think the other way around is important as well. Most of the security automation that we see in this slide over here is being set up by security people. And they will set up this capability and they will ask 50, 100, maybe 500 DevOps teams to consume that automation, that capability. But what if they don't have the right understanding of DevOps? They don't understand the DevOps way of working. Then they will create a capability, they will mandate and require it to be implemented without understanding what the impact of it is on the DevOps process. So I think the upskilling also needs to happen for our security people in understanding what DevOps is and how our DevOps engineers are working. And not only for our security engineers or our DevOps engineers, I also think our security leadership should be upskilled, or our IT leadership. They have the budget. They mostly decide on the priorities. They will influence the way the capability is being set up. So I strongly believe that also they need to be made more aware what DevOps is, how to organize security within DevOps. You need to upskill them as well. They need to upskill themselves as well. Actually, they should take a lead in that one. Yeah, there's again a question. Yeah. Can you go one slide back? Sure. No. You like this picture?
I like the picture. Yes, I like this picture too.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have another question about this. Could you point maybe the dev people towards the subjects and the ops to the other? I mean,
there is a mapping. You can make a mapping between this and the DevOps lifecycle, right? So, for example, SAS testing, you cannot do it in production. That's something really when you do your coding, you get, or your testing, you can get that feedback. Is that what you mean?
Well, what I expect is that the ops people would like much more assurance in or compliance or whatever you call it than the dev people. So I was just wondering, can you see that in this picture also, where the dev people are more interested in it and where the ops people?
You don't see it in this picture. I know it by my head. So there can be a layer on top of this. So basically what you can do is, if you go to the DevOps lifecycle, you can plot for each phase the capabilities where they decide on. That's a good suggestion. I can add it to my slides for the next presentations. Yeah? But it's possible. So for example, for threat modeling, I really see it in planning. That is where it will add a lot of value. SAS testing, it's coding. Amit, you are an AppSec specialist as well. You can explain that as well. If you talk about container security, it's both. And when you're building it, the container, but also when you're running your container, sometimes you have to address it at both sides. So that capability model can be plotted on the DevOps lifecycle. But I'm not sure, again, the talk where I didn't want to focus today is to explain how these capabilities all work together and what sort of security issues they tackle. I don't think that's the point. The point is really about when you automate it, make sure it's not only about implementing a tool. You're doing more around it for the DevOps engine because it's just another tool. It's, especially when the automation is new within the organization, it's going to generate a lot of false positives. It's going to give feedback in security lingo they don't understand. What do you do to help them to consume that? Are you there to take a hit on the false positives that's generating as a security department? So you can say, please use this tool, but are you helping them? I think that's the question we should be asking ourselves. Again, organizing security in such a way that you don't break DevOps. So, closing the knowledge gap. I was talking about the leaders, security and IT leaders. So they are also not exempt to get upskilled. We need to make sure they also are part of that upskilling program. And don't worry, they are smart people, so they need just a crash course or a mini course. So it should not be that heavy for them. And then last but not least, make sure the capability itself, whatever automation you're doing, it's self-service. That means less dependency with other departments, with other processes. Because DevOps people, they work at their own pace, and it's not that they just need a pen test or some other sort of security testing, and then they have to wait for 2 weeks, right? It's not going to fly. It's not going to work. If it's self-service, the lesser manual intervention with other departments needed, the better it is. All right? That was the first pillar. Let's go to the second pillar. And I still want to stand still. You remember that feeling? We don't want this to happen. This is what we are doing it for. Okay? It's a different guy. This is definitely not me, by the way. Yeah. That could have been me. Methodology. Most of you, of course, you guys are in the IT field for a long time. We cannot say IT is boring. IT is extremely exciting, right? If we look at 20 years, 30 years ago, till now, IT has really disrupted us, the way we do business, the way we live, you just name it, right? So IT cannot be boring. And I think we're just at the beginning of it. IT is just going to revolutionize the way we live and the way we do business even more. And this is just an illustration from Gartner. It's what Gartner calls the hype cycle. So it plots basically how a new technology or methodologies, I don't know, it could be quantum over here, it doesn't matter. It would go through a hype of people thinking, yes, this will add a lot of value, and then suddenly reality will hit, and then it will come in a dip in terms of what people expect from that methodology technology. And then slowly it might reach its full potential. We call it the plateau of productivity. At least Gartner calls it like that. And I think the point over here is that it's a wave, and it's coming our direction anyway. Look at the 5 to 10 years. Cloud came to our, it's there, right? Nobody can ignore cloud anymore. DevOps is coming our direction. Quantum computing is on our way. AI is definitely there, and it's gonna revolutionize a lot of things that we're doing. But also the way we have been doing security operation. Things have become better and more efficient. Hybrid working, nobody predicted this, but it went into a very fast pace. So these changes will come into that direction. Most of the CISOs, they already have a challenge coping with the current status to make sure security happens there. It's challenging for them. It's the 3-year program, Finally, when they think, okay, now I'm getting in control of my environment, then the CIO and the CTO introduce a new concept. Hey, this new technology, this new methodology, we're going to go to Agile, we're going to move to the cloud. And you as a CISO, you have to cope with it. So these waves of changes will come into your direction. There's no stopping it. So as a CISO, you can do two things. You can drown by these waves, or you can decide to ride these waves. Nobody's nodding. Come on. Like people, we want to ride the wave. That's what we want to do. Now, of course, myself, I really like to ride the wave and not drown. But that means you have to have a little bit of a different mindset. How do you do that? All right? So there are three things which I believe from a methodology and technology perspective, we can really benefit in securing DevOps. And I'm going to discuss them now. One is CICD. CICD, it stands for Continuous Integration, Continuous Development and Deployment, doesn't matter. And the idea of that is to ensure that the way you write code, the way you build your libraries, you push it ultimately to production and you monitor it over there, happens in a most automated way. It's really the engine of DevOps, by the way, I can tell you that. Not of security in DevOps, but it's really the engine of DevOps. Now, before CI/CD, when we had the world of Dev and Ops, you would probably say, okay, they're developers, they are writing the code, they already have the library, here's the package, please put it to production, they run people. And then we security would say, hey, stop, you're going to production, let me do security testing. You have the possibility to stop. With continuous integration and delivery, you don't have the option to stop. It's continuous. Right? So you have to think differently how to embed the security in there. I already gave an example of embedding pen testing use cases into the CI/CD pipeline. Now you have to automate it once, you write that security test once, and every time you're going to release a new version or new functionality on that application, you can test it. Right? So really use CI/CD as an enabler to do security better within DevOps. Even threat modeling can be embedded in that pipeline if you do it the right way. Another thing is, and maybe some of you might disagree with me, but I feel that public cloud is a great opportunity to do security better. It can be an on-the-record statement, doesn't matter. But I've seen many organizations where I feel that the internal environment that they had was less secure than the public cloud. And yes, the public cloud brings its own risk. We have a shared responsibility model. But if I look at the billions of dollars that Azure, AWS, and Google are pushing into making the cloud environment secure for us to consume, it's unmatchable. They hire the smartest people as well, right? So I don't believe that the public cloud is unsecure. The way you consume it can make it unsecure, but the public cloud itself is secure, and more secure than most of our internal environments. Plus, a lot of organizations still today, they're really struggling with implementing security capabilities, right? Think about MFA, think about encryption, think about key management. It's still currently a problem to organize it from a security perspective. With a cloud, it's just a check in the box, you have it. Like, why not use that? Why not go in that direction? So cloud is a real great enabler for also doing security in your organization.
Great, but we need to add to it with proper competencies, proper knowledge, proper planning, and proper funding. Because each click that you say is great, but it costs money, and if the money is not there, nothing happens.
Of course.
Sorry, I'm a budget owner. So
Yeah. But anyway, when you're going to organize, I do agree. I do feel sometimes that organizing security, consuming security capabilities in the cloud seems to be a bit more expensive than when you do it on-prem. I do believe with that. But I don't think there are people that have really exact calculated this difference. Because, yes, I can look at the technology, but have you looked at your department staff costs, maintenance costs, and all those things? So I think that's a good research to be done.
But that's why my comment was twofold.
Yes.
Good competencies, because you still need guys who understand security, understands encryption, understands key management, understands risk management, does the proper planning. You do not need to get rid of your old security staff. You just need to get them into the cloud the right way.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to add this message to what you're saying.
So it's a very good suggestion. Thank you for that, by the way. So public cloud, again, it can be seen as a huge opportunity to do security better, but you'll have to organize things, absolutely. Then as last one, I want to call out microservices. So the idea of microservices is mostly you'll have big applications, monolithic applications, and the idea with microservices is that you chunk up that big application to smaller parts. Smaller parts that can be maintained by one or two teams in an autonomous way. And by doing that, you basically break down the big information security risk that lies within that application into smaller information security risks. It's not that your attack factor is going down, that's not it, but you can now really say, okay, these two microservices, these two components that are client-facing, internet-facing, those are the ones I want to secure. And these are the ones that are back-end, there are some internal communication happening. I don't care, it's fine. We can do something with security over there, but we don't have to do a lot. So you really can focus on those components, those microservices where security is needed the most. Now you can really be more efficient in what you need to pen test, or what sort of security capabilities from automation you want to deploy or implement for those specific microservices. So you can be more efficient in determining where you put your security testing efforts. That's one thing. Secondly, of course, if a containers behave a little bit funny, you can easily kill it without breaking the whole application, because it will be a part of the functionality, not the whole application. And then easily you spin off a new container that wouldn't behave funny in the past. So it gives you more flexibility as well. All right? And then last but not least, the secret sauce. I started with automation, and then I went to MITology. And as last, I did inclusiveness. But I believe that if you want to do security in DevOps the right way, you need to start with inclusiveness. You start with this. And what is part of inclusiveness? So inclusiveness, we start with co-create security. That means you really work together as a security department together with the DevOps engineers or with the IT department, creating security together, whether you're writing policies or standards. And I know that this might offend some of you, but how often have we written standards that our own security people don't understand? How often have we written the policies where more, I see you, Ramsey, laughing, but he understands it. And I've faced it. People are writing security policies with all the great intentions, but even security people don't really fully understand what's written there. How do you understand, how can you expect our DevOps engineer to understand that? So really co-create that. I think that's very important, so they feel, yes, there is a department, they are doing it from the right intention, but they're also helping me to understand what it means, what the impact of it is when I'm writing something in the policy. Okay? Same applies for, and we have touched upon that on automation, right? When your tool is generating the output for them to consume, do they understand what's written there? Is there clear actions, clear instruction given to them to follow up on that? And is that written in security lingo, or is it something they can understand? I think about that, really co-create. And use the DevOps engineers, they are really smart people. Really use them, ask them for help to get this done. Build security champions programs. That's a good example to do it. I'm not sure whether they're saying something to you. We have done that at the companies that I work for, and it's a great source, a really great source, a lot of potential in it. The next one is what I call, they have built it, they have to take ownership. And this is really a call out to the DevOps engineer, right? So we have given them the security badge, but they need to take ownership of it now. We need to keep them and hold them accountable for doing security, right? So if they build it, they run the application, and they need to secure it. And last but not least, and this is a very difficult one for us as security professionals, letting them go, right? So once we have really enabled them, most of you would be parents. There are probably a few young guys that are not here in the room that are not parents yet, but we also know that with our kids, right? So if we're parenting them, sometimes we have to let them go as well, even though we know they're going to make a mistake, even though we don't want them to get hurt or not, but we know by letting them go at specific moments, we allow them to grow into their full potentials. And it's... What if they work in a nuclear plant? Or in a bank?
Okay, my question is, what if they work in a nuclear plant or a bank or Ministry of Defense or so? Let them go.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So are you able to do security testing yourself as a security department for all these changes that they're bringing to production? Are you able to do it as a security department? You think you
I
you
will, if it's a nuclear
might-
plant, I will, yes, because I will be dead if I don't.
Yes, but my statement is that it's an illusion. We think that we're controlling it. We think that we're in control, but we are not seeing it. Because the scale, it's just too much going to production. You will not be able to see it. So the sustainable way is to make sure you help them grow in maturity, and then ultimately you let them go, because that will actually push them even to the next level. I think it's a illusion that we are in control. Yes, I think we do our best, but do you know how many lines of code they write on a daily basis? They push to production. You will not be able to test the security. You don't have enough security people to do that.
Can I add one point from a legacy perspective, which is most of us have, with experience, have it. You know, zero-day exploits is a good one. You can test and do everything, and then something 0 days come up in a Windows or a Linux machine, and you still have to let them go at some point, because there are some factors outside of your control. That's a problem.
By the way, I'm not dismissing your remark. It's a great remark. What I'm saying is, depending on the criticality of your application that's being built, probably you need to have a little bit more patience. You need to have a little bit, an extra pair of eyes. And they will understand. If you explain this to these DevOps engineers, they will understand. You don't have to do it for all the DevOps engineers, because some of the application will be a little bit more critical than others, right? Even if you work for Ministry of Defense or whatnot, it's fine. Some of the application will be less relevant at that moment. Security is always about, risk-based thinking and defense in depth. So yes, for specific critical application, you need to pay a little bit more attention as security part. That's fine. But again, letting them go will help them to grow into their fullest potential. It doesn't mean, and I'm not saying that you should not hold them accountable. Absolutely, you should help them accountable. But don't always oversee them from their shoulders. I don't know what the Dutch saying is for that. But don't do that, because then they'll think, okay, but there's always security looking at it. Oh, I'm not going to do my best. By letting them go, they know it's their job. It's their responsibility. That's my experience, and it's a long way, by the way. It will not happen in 1 year or 2 years. It's a whole process. But that's the only way to really make security scalable from the security department to the IT department. I put some practical tips over here, how to implement inclusiveness. I'm not sure how much time I have. This is the last one of the last slides, so I still have time. Okay, so this is really what I would advise business and IT leaders to. It's like a critical point, I would say. Set a clear purpose what DevOps is. What is it that you want to achieve with DevOps as business and IT? I'm pretty sure when you go to your organization, you're going to ask them, you're going to get different answers. And I think that is not good, because then people don't understand what we are trying to achieve. Therefore, they will not be able to think along, I'm going to introduce this security process. Am I going to protect that value, or am I going to break that value, right? By having a clear purpose of what you want to achieve with DevOps, and internalizing is people can work towards it. And I see that going wrong with many organizations. It's difficult for them to even articulate what they want to achieve with DevOps. Building relationships between the teams, between DevOps teams, IT, and security. We have already touched upon this one. And the budget, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, two different points. One is on the previous slide. If you are still hesitant to let them go, then basically concentrate on co-creating security more. That means you need to build confidence on those guys, and if you're still not confident, then you're lacking on the co-create security.
Yes, absolutely.
And the second part is from compliance perspective as well. You can concentrate on the second aspect wherein you secure it. And once it is, then concentrate on the compliance part and introduce them to compliance. Make them write compliance-based unit tests or functional tests, which can also be helpful. Of course, budget. As a part of inclusiveness, the budget guys should be also on board. Only then all of this is possible.
Great addition, Samit. Thank you so much for that. And I think IT and business leaders have a leadership role over here, right? So especially with building the relationship. In practice, I've rarely seen security people, operational or experts, reaching out to the DevOps engineers and working together, and the other way around. It's like a big gap between them, not only from a knowledge perspective, but also the way we work. So I think we as IT leaders and business leaders, we really need to lead by example over here as well. That means we need to show them the way how IT, security, and business can all work together, and propagate that to them as well.
Yes. I would like to elaborate a little on the training side. You foster it as inclusive. And inclusiveness means, my opinion, that everybody needs to be aware and trained of security concepts. And you only touch them from a DevOps side, from the DevOps teams to the security teams, to educate them a little about the product security and the process.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you have the security teams to train the DevOps teams. However, the third pillar is the one who make the budgets and manage the teams. They should be trained and be aware as well.
Yes.
Since then, they have a better understanding of how that inclusiveness on security would be achieved.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So I think training will work on multiple pillars. I do feel that the hardest, where it's needed, is really when automation happens. So when we automate things, we really deploy the tool and we're done in the practice.
But you don't need you should not depend on automation, since what we always see with security breaches, the human factor is always there.
Yes, yes, yes.
So on those points where the automation doesn't help you, you really need to have your people trained.
Yeah. So which pillar would you? This is great, great feedback. Which pillar do you see you want to also emphasize on training and upskilling next to automation?
I think all teams and all members of an organization should be trained and aware.
Yeah, yeah. But is that specific, by the way, just for me, then, is that specific to DevOps? I think you still need to train your people, everybody, on our level, whether you're doing DevOps or not.
Correct.
Okay, then I understand it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not saying that this is it for security.
No.
Yeah, I'm just saying very specifically if you're doing DevOps, then these are extra things you need to consider.
The automation part is great. However, we all know when we have development life cycles, some parts need to be automated.
Yes.
And that part, that will be the sweet spot for attackers.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, great addition. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. I think we have touched upon all of them, and then I'm going to close with the... Yes, yes, yeah. Then I'm going to close.
I just want to make sure that everyone in the room asked their questions. So any more questions, or should we take the online ones? We go with the online ones? Okay. So it seems to me from the discussions happening online, we need to touch base on like the maturity life cycle of adopting DevOps, because a lot of the questions about like where the actual security automation happens, in my humble opinion, everywhere, but I would leave that to you.
Yeah.
And the second part is like, is there any hints would you like to share about the tools and selection of tools for the automation process from a security perspective? And last but not least, there was a question that I think we answered, but it's good to mention it again, is like hands-on security work will be done by DevOps engineers, which is true, I mean, through the automation and everything. Do we still need the security people outside the loop or not?
Outside of the...
Outside the loop, outside the CICD, let's say the DevOps.
Oh, great question. Let me start with the last one, and then hopefully my memory is not yet good, so you can repeat the first question. But let me start with the last one. So yes, yes, yes. We are not expecting DevOps engineers. By the way, maybe that's also towards your question, because I think you have valid points. We are not expecting DevOps engineers to be the security experts of the organization, right? We are expecting them to do the basics of security, which only they can do because they know the application. It's easier to be done by them, and you can achieve scale. But definitely, you still need the security department. Somebody need to look at the more sort of advanced things that might go wrong within the organization. And by doing automation, by putting the responsibility at the DevOps teams, you're actually freeing up your security department to do that. Currently, they are mostly already doing the basic things, and they have to because nobody else is taking care of it. What you want to do is you want to offload them from that burden. And so they can start looking at the more enterprise security related topics. So I hope that answers the question the person asked from the chat. The second question was about
Can you share which tools were
the
used and
toolings. Yeah.
selected? Yeah.
So I'm not going to name the sort of toolings. It's all out there. We have Amit here also from Synopsys. He can tell you all about it. But I'll tell you what I do find important. And that's very much close to my heart, but also related to my talk. I feel that most of the security toolings that are available out there, they are really written for security folks. While we are saying shift the security left, that means DevOps engineers, you guys go ahead and work with these tools. So I feel that the security vendors that we have nowadays, the partners, the providers that we have nowadays, specifically that will help doing security in DevOps, they need to make their tooling a little bit more DevOps friendly. That's my strong belief. It's too much security. People will look at it, they will not understand, and then you'll not have adoption. I would rather have a tool that's less effective in what sort of security challenges it brings out, but better in terms of reporting, better in terms of user interface, simpler in terms of reporting and findings that DevOps engineers can, because then you're more effective with the adoption, and that's what we want to achieve. And that's not different for security, because IT people and IT toolings use the same concept. So that was where I'll stop with answering that question.
Yeah, that was the second. The first one was about the maturity. So at which part of the, let's say, adopting DevOps, because, organizations start from a legacy perspective.
Yeah.
Development, operations, architecture, engineering, all are like different places. And then you go into DevOps. At what maturity level do you think introducing the automation of security should happen? That was the question. I maybe elaborated a little bit. But.
Yes, that's actually an excellent question. I really applaud the person that asked that question, because that means that person is already thinking about this, right? So for me, automation, this is really a good set of capabilities. If you have implemented this, I really think you make a good case in automating security in DevOps. But I wouldn't say to you, please start implementing everything. I would just say, look at your organization. Where are the most security issues you're finding? Is that with secrets that are being hard-coded? Is that with insecure code that's being written? Please go to your pen test report, go to your audits, go to the information that you already have available, and see where the bigger problems are. And then select the capability, the automation you want to do. Start with a smaller group. Make sure you get the feedback from the developers, and then roll it out to more and more teams. This is how I would suggest you to do it. Threat modeling can be a starting point for sure, but
I mean, to define what you require. For example, if the application is not, just some additions. Yeah. So, for example, if you want to understand the maturity of your existing automation, the first thing is you need to narrow down to what tools you require. It might be a possibility that you don't require a secrets management tool at all, or if you're not having any kind of containers-based application, then no container security is required. So the first thing is narrowing down to the threats. On that basis, choose your tools wisely. And if you think that all the threats are covered by the existing tool, you're set to go.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Amit.
Maybe last question from my side, and maybe it's the wrong question to ask, but I thought it's the last thing to do. Yep. Audits. How do you think audits will happen once you automate all of this? Because that's a question a lot of people are asking.
So when
should we stop the cycle and do the audit, or should we say that's a snapshot and do the audit? Or because we're doing it automated, we consider it like an automated audited solution?
Yeah, so I always try to refine what you mean with audit, right? Is it the group audit department that's doing the audit, or do we want to show that the team is in control? What is it?
I think both, either internal audit or, external audits would be easier to answer, but more internal audit.
So it goes back to your question, right? How do you demonstrate in control? So demonstrating in control, I don't feel we need audit for that. We need to be able to show ourselves that we're in control. So it goes back to answering the question of the best sir over there. From a group audit perspective, yes. I see a big gap between DevOps engineers understanding security, but also security people, really engineers understanding DevOps people and how they work. But there's even, with all the respect, there's even a bigger gap. The further the line is, the bigger the gap is. So the first thing I would say to people that want to audit organizations, please go and skill yourself up. Understand what is it that we're trying to audit over here. Don't try to use older frameworks to push something on something that's not fitting in that framework anymore. So that would be my first advice. There's nothing wrong with it. You're going to break DevOps. The whole IT organization will spend millions of dollars creating something great, and then you're going to come up with a program, and then you're going to beat it to that. It's not needed. You need to think differently.
Thank you so much. This is actually the message I wanted to pass.
Oh, okay.
I'm currently in such a situation.
No, but with all due respect, it's not the fault of audit. We have the same challenge within security. We are not upskilling enough to understand how DevOps work and cloud work. We need to do that job ourselves as well, by the way.
Yep. We have one last question. What are important controls to implement for monitoring DevSecOps or DevOps?
What are they?
Important controls. I think it's already
Yeah,
on the
it's this slide over here.
yeah.
But this is automation. Again, the whole talk is about that automation is not enough, you need more. So please take a look at the MITologies as well. Maybe you disagree with that list of 3 that I've put over here. That's not the point about the list of 3, right? It's CICD, public cloud, and microservices. Maybe you have other MITologies, that's fine, but use it. Use it to see where can you improve security in your current posture, because this new technology methodologies improve. I think that's the thing. And then for inclusiveness, yes, think about working together with the DevOps teams. I mean, we have touched upon it, right? Hold the DevOps engineer accountable. Think about what sort of program, reporting, dashboarding you'll put in place to keep them accountable as well, and have that conversation with them. And also letting them go only when they reach a specific maturity level. Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
No more questions online then.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, Irfan, thank you for the presentation. Normally I would have like a bottle of wine somewhere during the round tables, but yeah, we have drinks outside, so we can go afterwards for a drink.
We'll do that.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, great that you're all here. For the next coming 2 weeks, there won't be any square tables. The first following square table will be with Melanie Riebak from Radical Open Security. I've seen her several times speaking, so I don't know yet what the title will be, but I know it will be a good presentation. So hope to see you there, and yeah, have a nice evening, everybody. Okay, thanks. Bye.